We're ready to get started with this afternoon's second panel, First Ladies, A Family View. Hello, I'm Warren Finch. I'm the director of the George Bush Library and College Station. It's a great pleasure to be here at the LBJ Library. I'd like to take the credit for starting these First Ladies conferences in Texas, but it wasn't my idea. It was actually my colleague's idea, Mark Updegrove, here at the Johnson Library, so I'd like to thank him. I'd also like to thank Anita McBride. We all saw her conference at American University and decided that it would be a great idea to continue her idea here in Texas. I'd also like to thank American University for their support, the White House Historical Association. And now, this afternoon's second panel. The moderator this afternoon will be Jean Becker. Jean has been Chief of Staff to former President George Bush since 1994, supervising his office operations in both Houston and in Kennebunkport, Maine. She took a leave of absence in 1999 to edit and research All the Best, George Bush, My Life and Letters, and other writings. She served as Deputy Press Secretary to First Lady Barbara Bush from 1989 to 1992. After the election in 1992, she moved to Houston to help Mrs. Bush with the editing and research of her auto.
Me is just showing how easygoing your grandfather was. He said, well, I'm leaving Barbara here to worry about, the voting. He said, I'm going off hunting. And I think he was going with maybe Secretary Baker, but they were going halfway around the world. Here we are on tenterhooks, waiting to see if what's going to happen in the presidential election. And, wasn't his election. He was going off. But I know it was something that was an election feeling that changed my life and made me understand that everybody's been there.
Steve?
I'm going to spin it a little bit. I'm going to go to the front end of Dad's presidency because of everybody up here at the panel. We sort of got there a different way in that it was never expected. Dad had been a congressman for 26 years in the state of Michigan, and because Agnew had to step down, he got appointed vice president, and then 10 months later, in August 1974, when Nixon stepped down, here you had a man that was going to walk into the East Room of the White House, put his hand on a Bible that Richard described beautifully. Mom held the Bible, and Dad took the oath of office. The kids, we all sat there, that had not been elected by the American people. He'd been appointed vice president, assumed the presidency. So our first experience was to come in a different way than every other family up here. Probably will never happen again in history. And it's interesting because after Dad was sworn in, we went and took a photo of the family behind the Oval Office desk. And that night, we didn't get to move into the White House because Nixon had left so quickly, so unexpectedly. They left their daughter and son-in-law, David Eisenhower, to pack all their clothes and belongings. It literally took 7 or 8 days. We had to go back to our little house in Alexandria, Virginia, and the suburbia. The neighborhood was surrounded by Secret Service. We had been living there as Dad was vice president. And I'll never forget, that night, Mom is cooking dinner. I mean, literally, we are sitting around the dinner table, and Mom's cooking dinner, and she looks over at my dad, and she goes, Jerry, something's wrong here. You just became President of the United States, and I'm still cooking. And that was our first 7 days were spent there, and literally Dad would commute to the office every day, which was the Oval Office. So we got there a little different way than the rest of the panel did.
Jenna?
Well, we got there a different way, too, as you've already brought up. Our election night lasted for 36 days. I think that's right, Mom. So it was a pretty stressful time, I think, although probably more stressful for my mom, because I was a freshman at the University of Texas, and Barbara was a freshman at Yale, and so we were, we had our structured lives, and we kind of, as college students are, slightly selfish and worrying about our second semester of college.
I was also at the University of Texas, and I stayed here and came back and finished the first semester. and didn't go to the White House.
Yeah, we never lived in the White House. But anyway, beyond that, you know, I think one thing that people don't realize during elections, and I talked about this a little bit at work, is that, you know, all of these people are our parents. They're not politicians, and, you know, and sadly, in modern politics, it seems like campaigns have become more and more negative. So you've just witnessed a year or a year and a half of the people you love the most being criticized, and then, you know, you have this one night. And for the rest of America, it's so polarized. You know, you want your candidate, you want your party. But for kids, you know, you want the best for your parents because for 18 years, they've wanted the best for us. And then, you know, again, 4 years later, and I think that's difficult. And I wish that Americans saw politicians and all people as people. I wish things were more three-dimensional because that's, you know, that's all politicians that put themselves out there are spending time away from their families and making that sacrifice. So, you know, but my mom, there is that famous picture, and I wish we had it, of her doing dishes on election night. And I think that was just to keep the normalcy, and also because she has slight OCD. But
Barbara. Well, my stories are obviously very similar to Jenna's, but also we also had another election night, which was when our grandfather was elected to be president, and we were 6. And I just remember thinking it was so fun because our whole family got together and all of our cousins